Hi everyone. For those who might not know me, my name is Brian Shaw. And if you mention that name to my teachers from my previous schools, they would either laugh or they would cry. Clearly, I wasn't exactly the most well-behaved kid. When I was 10, I would run around the classroom, forcing the teachers to chase after me, pin me down, and then drag me all the way to the principal's office. And when I was 11, I would actually get into fights with my classmates during lessons right in front of the teachers. And you could probably guess how that turned out. But things started to improve when I was 13 and moved schools. I was more focused in lessons, and I'd pay attention to what the teacher was saying, down to the small details, in order to crack jokes in class. No one, not even myself, would have thought that I'd be able to clean up my act to the point that I'd get the academic grades that I wanted, let alone start running my own business. I currently manage an online video editing studio that has produced hundreds of videos for YouTubers and Instagram pages that get millions of views. And for me to be able to share my work with so many people is incredibly surreal, and I'm extremely grateful for it. But that's not the best part. The best part is that I get to work with hundreds of talented people all around the world, from cinematographers to soundtrack producers to animators. The list just goes on. And this is all because when I was 14, I was fortunate enough to discover my passion for videography. I dreamt about becoming a YouTuber, and I pictured myself making content for millions of people online. And that is actually what made me start learning videography. And after a couple of months of hard work and going onto YouTube and searching up tutorials, I actually started editing pretty decent videos. And this made me realize that I was able to learn an incredible skill just by putting a little effort in. And that is actually why I started putting more effort into my work, my schoolwork, because I realized that I was able to improve my schoolwork if I just put a little effort into it. An example of how running a business improved my studies was when I started getting clients. I was forced to speak and write in a more professional way, and I couldn't go, yo, don't worry man, the video's gonna be lit. Obviously, I had to cut down on my slang and my informality. And after a couple of meetings, I started doing it naturally when I would write my essays or when I would speak to a teacher. And another serious problem that I struggled with was handing in work on time. I still struggle. I say was, but I still struggle with it to this day. But I promise you, I was way worse before. In fact, when teachers would go around collecting homeworks, they would just skip me, knowing that I wouldn't have it. which was great, because I didn't have to do any homework, until I started failing those classes. But now, after working with clients with so much at stake, my reputation and money, I was forced to learn the necessary habits that I needed in order to meet those deadlines. Now, this showed me that if you're interested in something, you're more likely to be successful at it, because you naturally learn and adopt the habits that you need in order to be successful at that thing. And that's why when I applied my mindset, attitude, and my behavior to when I would run my business to my studies, I actually started improving in it. And this got me thinking, why isn't the education system focused or taking advantage of the natural motivation that everyone has when they're doing something that they're interested in? Statistically, according to a US study, statistics show that 70% of students do not find that the material being taught in school is interesting. Or rather, they're not being taught in a way that interests them. This is because the whole education system is just built around exams. And it's not really about the love for learning, but it's more about not failing those exams. An extreme example of this is the Singapore education system, which I went through till I was grade 7. And this is how I felt pretty much 90% of the time. Yeah, I wasn't exactly happy. And it was because I was faced with a nationwide exam called the PSLE, or Primary School Leaving Examination at that age. And this exam determined the quality of education, the quality of your secondary education system that you would get. And it was almost impossible for me to enjoy learning because I was put under so much stress. Now, because I've experienced two systems, the Singapore public school system and the international school system, like the IB or IGCSEs, I've actually noticed a huge difference between the two of them. When I was in the international school system, I actually started enjoying learning more because it was more open and creative. In fact, the way I discovered my love for videography was because I edited a video for my school project. And if the system had been more linear, it would have been way harder for me to discover my creative side. And this is why I am stressing the importance of creativity in education. But what do I mean by creativity in education? Well, just last term, I did my English IOP. And it's basically a presentation about whatever interests you on a novel you studied in class. And I was lucky enough to have studied Dream of Electric Sheep. And in my presentation, I compared it to its film adaptation, Blade Runner. And since I love film and cinematography, I had tons of fun doing this project, and I was extremely passionate about it. And this method of learning, where it supports or at least accommodates for our interest, should be the foundation of the education system. Now, an example of such a system is the Finnish education system. And we can learn some lessons from it, pun intended, by completely removing all exams. Yeah, the Finnish system only has one exam at the end of high school. And one big reason for this is that it prevents students from just studying for tests and teachers from just only teaching for the tests. It gives education so much more meaning. And despite not having a formal reason to do well, Finnish students are still consistently topping global league tables in terms of their performance. This is because the Finns understand that exams aren't actually necessary, but instead they focus on interesting these students on the material being taught in school. And this is why 2/3 of all Finnish students end up going to university after they graduate, which is the highest proportion of students in a country that go to university in the entire Europe. Now, another reason for that is that the Finnish system is much more relaxed. What I mean is the Finnish students aren't given much homework, or any at all, until they are teenagers. And there's an actual law which states that after every 45 minutes of work, a 15-minute break must be given. It prevents students from being burnt out, and school becomes less of a chore. And what we have here is the recipe for one of the best education systems in the world. But yet, it's entirely different. Hopefully, this will get you to question the effectiveness of conventional education and whether homework and exams are really the best way to get students to learn. Now, recently I was prompted by my parents and my teachers to choose between my education and my business. Most students, especially those interested in the entrepreneurial or artistic sectors, experience this. A choice between their passion or just general academics, just because there isn't enough time to do well in both. It's a shame that a student's interests and their education usually don't align, but hopefully, innovation, such as a movement towards the Finnish education system, will take place in the next couple of years that will merge both passion and education together in order to provide an effective but yet enjoyable education for students. My name is Brian, and thank you so much for coming.